This is Ed in San Diego, and welcome back to Global TV Talk Show. Our special guest today is in Spain, near Barcelona. Ed Sutton, welcome.
Hi, Ed.
Well, welcome aboard. First time, and we're live
Great.
recording. So the public does not yet know about this program, but they will, with your approval, soon after it's finalized, which I will do later in my day today.
Cool.
So you'll get it in your morning. Um, and let me know whether you need me to make drastic changes. I really don't want to make any changes, but if I have to, I will.
Let's see how it goes.
Okay. So Global TV Talk Show is what I started in March of 2020 as a result of COVID crashing into my 30 years of producing live meetings and events.
Hmm.
And I was afraid of doing uh, camera, Zoom, and but my tech partner at the time, Paul, who was a very accomplished uh, voice actor uh, and radio engineer, and back in 2010 or so, I don't remember exactly when, uh, he and I started a talk show, radio talk show. And now here 2020 of March, COVID, he said, learn how to be comfortable in front of the camera. It's the future. Okay. So I called it the global meeting room affectionately because I did live meetings and
Right.
spent a ton of money traveling around doing that. And
Right.
but it played well. It was good. As an independent public relations guy for all my life, really. Um, I could have a lot of fun with that. And so starting March 2020, I started to do this. And uh, more than 1,100 productions to date. And they're all on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And, excuse me, Global Free Access, 365, 724. Never a toll gate, no registration fees for anything.
Mm.
I do get support from advertisers and sponsors, and now we're selling membership subscriptions.
Great.
Uh, so you know all about that, having been in media and on HR and a touch of mobility. Tell us about your background.
Well, I was in human resources for 25 years. I've worked for a range of different businesses. One of the first that I worked for was actually the National Health Service in the UK, in England, where I'm from. And after that, I've worked for a number of other businesses. So some big names that you might have heard of, like Zara, the fashion retailer. I did a brief stint with Disney and even Pokemon, which some people don't believe is a real company, but it is.
So
So
this is in HR.
all in human resources. Yeah, I've always
Yeah.
worked in
Okay.
human resources, but more recently, because I did a lot of coaching in my role. I became a full-time coach recently, so that's what I do now. I'm a life coach, and I coach men, and I also run a couple of communities. So I wanted to talk to you today about one of those communities.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So about the idea of coaching,
Mm.
uh, I was fortunate to be invited by the ICF,
Right.
International Coaching Federation,
Yeah.
to attend. They gave me a press pass. Their international meeting a year ago was here in San Diego. I live right in the tourist district by the convention center and the hotels
Oh,
and
do you? Okay.
seaport villages across the street from where I sit right now.
No.
So I said, sure, I'll do it. So I wanted to do interviews. So they gave me a pass to walk around and introduce myself. and their PR agency from Washington, D.C., traveled with them. He was my godfather, if you will. He took me around and got me introduced and met several people uh, and sat in on the meetings. And I was fascinated by that. Uh, I have since been using some of those connections through ICF uh, to stage certain topics, programs, talk shows.
Mm.
Uh, so recently, I had the honor of interviewing the director, the ICF board member, who's also a director of their AI
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
products and services. If I haven't done that already, I'll send you that program link. You'll find that interesting, I think.
I found that link and I had a little look at that. I didn't see the
Okay,
whole
good.
interview, but I did check it out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and consequently, I also found um, uh, a coach, an ICF coach, who's based in Bucharest, Romania,
Mm.
and Andrea, is her name. She has been on several of our programs as a contributor, as a panelist.
Nice.
And so her having her voice is really interesting, not only from Bulgaria, but from the coaching profession.
Mm.
And she's got a special accreditation on the brain and how the brain functions, especially in a coaching relationship.
And a neuroscientist, perhaps?
So something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
called Aspire,
Ah,
A-
okay.
Aspire Coaching or something like
Okay.
that.
I'll look it up. Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in your work in, say, Disney,
Mm.
did you were you in charge of functions within HR, or were you like an HR business guy?
I was always an HR business guy, so I was an HR generalist. So I supported teams generally. One of the functions that I looked after was learning and development. So I was always, in terms of a specialism, I would look more at how teams and organizations learn and develop. But so that was my specialty. But generally, I was always supporting the whole of the business. So at Disney, I was in the area of the Disney store, and we looked after all the employees across Europe, in the stores and also in the offices.
To what extent did you use coaching um, of talent to uh, rather than in a I thou relationship, in a we kind of talent development, not only for
Um,
communications but also um, to build up the human asset?
Well, all the time. It's a skill that anyone can use in their role. And the fundamental basis of coaching is instead of giving someone a fish, you're teaching them to fish. So instead of giving them the answers, you're asking them questions to help them figure out their own way of solving problems for themselves. So instead of having 10 calls per day with the same topic, I would be able to have conversations with people so that, that we wouldn't constantly get the same questions because they could figure it out for themselves. And then if you take that principle and you apply it from a very junior level, say a junior manager to a senior leader, often that approach is far more effective the more senior you go because those senior leaders have an incredible amount of knowledge and expertise. They know better what to do than I do. So my role was always to help and support them with asking them the right questions, and that's what a coach does.
So I see you got involved in mobility. Um, so, but I'm going to guess. So I want you to tell me what you actually did there. But um, was that with Disney?
Well, actually, I'm not in global mobility. I never worked in global mobility. I was always an HR generalist. What I'm doing at the moment is running a community for people in HR and global mobility.
Okay.
It's a group that brings those two together. A lot of the time in organizations, they overlap. So people who are working in the business of how do we organize moving people from here to here, or organizing this executive to be able to go and work in India, or for this people from India to be able to move, or how do we move a whole section of people over? Those those global mobility people will work hand in hand with HR people. So I did the HR. I looked after the people more on the day to day, from bringing them into the organization to reorganizations and things like that. But if we were having people move, say a business, for example, here in Barcelona, I worked for a company called Vistaprint, and there we had someone who specifically looked after global mobility within that team. And now I work with in this community with people who work in HR and in global mobility. And some of those global mobility people are in organizations that support HR departments in companies. So they can be separate companies operating, and it brings those two together. So we can talk about the same kind of topics.
Okay. So let's get into coaching men. So you came to this as a result of the women's group?
Yeah, so a lady called Miriam Van Kempen, who runs a group called Be Her, she posted something that interested me, and it was a man who was um, uh, looking to get answers and support. And she runs the Be Her group, which is a group for women in human resources and global mobility. And that group had grown so well that that she was looking for somebody to do a spin-off for men. And it happened at the same time that I had started specifically looking to coach men. And having moved out of my career in HR into life coaching, running this community seemed a perfect way of helping and supporting men who work in HR and global mobility at the same time, as kind of keeping one foot in the business of HR for me. So it's been really great to work with Miriam on starting to build this community for men specifically.
So I'm familiar with the Mahibi Hill also. Uh, yeah, now she is in Barcelona
All right.
area, and uh, she's a Brit, actually Cyprus-based,
Okay.
but living in Barcelona. And she has since moved on to, as I understand it anyway, to be an executive coach uh, and focusing in on women
Mm.
and uh, issues, problems that are common to women apparently in organizations that are run by men. Okay, so I'm sure you know all about that, but not
I,
funny. It's not funny for the people who are victims.
well, this is the thing, and this is what that interests me because the men that I get to speak to are in a unique position. So you're working in human resources or global mobility. There, it's typically quite female dominated, actually. So you've got a female dominated area of work, often within businesses that are male led and male run. So men in HR and global mobility have a unique place to cross that divide. And actually, I meet a lot of good men, and my mission is to help those men do more good. And that's why I have this group and why I run this community because I want more men to have more power to to create a better balance in organizations and to help those organizations succeed but in a healthy way. And what we find a lot we come across a lot of at the moment is quite a lot of toxicity in organizations. And we've relied, I think, heavily on women to counter that balance and lead that. And my part is just to support making sure that organizations are healthy and run well. And I'm pleased to say I get to work with and talk to a lot of really great men who share similar views and feelings about how organizations can be run as well as possible.
Oh, here we are. Okay, so um, have you had much resistance?
How do you mean?
Well, uh, I would think that most guys don't want to get involved
In
in a shrink session.
ah oh no, they're not shrink sessions. Oh, do you mean in my personal coaching or
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
community work?
Yeah, well, I see I'm fumbling around. I don't know what to say.
I think
So,
that's fair. I think that's a fair point. So if you're talking about coaching, I agree. I think that there's a lot of men don't understand just how powerful coaching can be. And that's why when I contact people or when they contact me and they're showing interest, um, what I often do is offer them a free session to begin with so they can experience what coaching's all about. But coaching's really about figuring out your goals and your dreams and moving towards those. It's not psychotherapy. Often a lot of the causes of things that are I guess, sitting behind your motivations and your blockers, lean into therapy. But I always say very clearly, I'm not a therapist, I'm a coach. And coaching is goal orientated, coaching is action orientated, coaching is future focused. So we do get into a lot of stuff around meditation and breathing where it's helpful. And I find that stuff enormously helpful. But I would always say to people, if you need therapy, go get a therapist. But coaching's useful for everyone. It's a fantastic skill to have to be able to change your life, chase your dreams, move from ordinary to extraordinary. So it's hard for me to talk about just how great coaching is and how valuable it is, because I've used it for the past 25 years personally and professionally, for my own development, and to develop a lot of people that I've spoken to. So, um, do I get a lot of resistance? I think in as far as the more people need to get a greater understanding of just how helpful it can be. So whether you're here or you're up here, a lot of people talk about high performance coaching and so on. I used coaching to develop as a manager and as a leader, and then I used coaching. I use coaching now. I have my own coach as I develop my business. But yeah, I would say that there is a possibly some misperception out there about what coaches do, and that some people might think, oh, it's not for me. But I once you learn the system of the process of coaching, I think you'll find that it's useful for everyone.
so it's a training of how to think. I mean,
Yeah,
how to um, find a pathway towards
exactly.
problem solving, whereby before it was you didn't know there was a problem.
It can be. So you can coach with or without a problem to solve. So if you know or you feel that there's something not quite right, and you're trying to investigate what it is. A coach can help you figure out what's not right and what you need to fix and then what to do about it. But ultimately, whether you've got a problem or part of the process is to identify what your problem is, the idea of coaching is to move you from um, being stuck and unsure or overwhelmed or lost to a point of having clarity and focus on normally just a few goals. Um, you can have a purpose, you can have multiple purposes, but getting you focused on manageable goals that you can actually achieve within a period of time and finding that way forward. So typically you move through goals, reality, options, way forward, and that's the classic grow model of coaching. But I tend to go a lot deeper with my clients these days. And really, the most important thing is the connection between the coach and the coachee, and that really the product is always the client sitting in front of me. So if I was coaching with you, at the end of the day, it's you and what you want in your life that is the product of that session. So typically, I will work with people for about 6 months to move from feeling stuck or overwhelmed or frustrated to having their own process of being able to work through from confused and lost to certain of what I'm doing and actually taking that action and going ahead and doing it. Much like you starting this show and saying, "Oh, yeah, I haven't done this part of it before. I don't know how to do that." Okay, but what are the first steps that you can take to get it going? And often we start with something really small and super manageable, like posting one post on YouTube, for example, could be the start of an action that you take after a coaching session, and then make that part of an ongoing plan to achieve. But yeah, it's useful in all learning and development, from moving from figuring out what you want to how you're going to get it.
Interesting. So while you were just describing that process, I was thinking about, well, a couple of things, stuff going through my head, but personal and business. So this is live and it's being recorded, so I'm going to self-edit considerably uh, at this moment. So
Okay.
in the early days of producing this TV, and still
Mm,
today, 6+ years more, it's really hard to get people to want to go on camera and be recorded without a script. And we don't have, I don't allow scripts.
yeah.
We are very well organized about the theme and the topic and the management of time.
Yeah.
And I, as PR, I uh, from years ago, I've been in front of the camera,
Mm,
and so it's a friend, or it could be your worst enemy. So I teach people, coach people
yeah.
about how not to be afraid of the camera and how to
Yeah.
use the microphone, tone, and background. So if this, I had somebody do this for me 6 years ago, and then I put it aside because I thought it was a little weird,
Yeah.
being distractive. And I went to pictures that I took. I'm a photographer, so I take pictures and I
Right.
put them up on the, background, and that's okay. But and then I went back to this about a year ago because this is my brand. I have to stick with it rather than show pretty pictures about San Diego. So yeah.
Okay.
But I still do that on occasion. It depends on the
Yeah.
topic. As a matter of fact, just as an aside, um, I'm getting ready to launch a couple of new programs, in other words, TV shows,
Nice.
based upon, well, one will be based upon San Diego. And so I'll use a lot of the photos that I've taken,
Right.
around town and then invite people to come on the show. And maybe some will buy an ad, so I can pay
Yeah.
some bills. But I do this as it's work, but it's not work. I love what I'm doing, and I'm also able to coach people on how to not be afraid of this, to use this opportunity. And I'm doing this. So I'm looking
Yeah.
at the camera without staring at it. Uh,
Yeah.
and the camera doesn't lie. I mean, it's showing everything.
Right.
So that means the lighting has to be right. That means the sound has to be right. That means the pace of conversation has to be audible and
Yeah.
understandable, or else it's wasting time. So it's a public relations outreach tool. And my coaching is to get people to trust me, to trust the system that I've built. And then I
Mm.
ask them to spend money. uh,
Right.
and if they don't want to do it, I don't throw them off.
So you're coaching them to create their own shows, or
Right.
what are you coaching?
Or a
That's
series of topics
okay.
across time. And so
Okay.
it's,
So
it's
you're
usually about their business,
right. Yeah.
about their brand. Come and talk about your brand. What do you
Yeah.
do? How do you do it? Why do you do it?
Yeah.
And who benefits? How do you help people?
Yeah.
And then I give them the video link and the audio link and the text notes.
Right.
And then they could chop it up, use it, whatever they want. I don't care. But I own the copyrights. I'm the producer, so I'm going to put it out on my network and then
Yeah.
show the world. I'm not only promoting their
Yeah.
business by doing that, but I'm promoting my business and my
Right.
capabilities of doing things for them. So one of the things I've been doing, talking about changing the mindset and then applying
Mm. Mm.
a skill pattern to get to another side of the street, uh, is finding people, usually in HR and or mobility,
Right.
or learning and development is a key source
Yeah.
in large companies. And I'll get to that in a minute about who the audience has been and what I'm trying to do. So
Yeah.
um, simply get people to trust the process, to talk about themselves, and to be prepared. So I welcome people through a talent collaboration. I call it best practice media prep. It's
Right.
almost like the same thing. I'm imagining you use the same techniques, changing the words, but I don't want people to feel embarrassed on camera, because then they'll never buy an ad or they'll never
Mm.
sign for a contract. So I want
Mm.
them to prepare. And
Right.
so I invite, just like I said to you, send me some talking points,
Yeah.
and don't give me sentences, just bullet points.
Yeah.
Okay, it's really simple. All right,
Yeah.
so that I can understand it. And you know
Yeah.
what I've been doing lately is asking Gemini.
Yeah.
I say, hey, I'm going to do a talk show. I don't mention
Yeah.
names, but I'm going to do a talk show. And so, as a coach or as the publicist and the producer,
Yeah.
the, this is going to be the topic. Tell me more about what I should know. And then Gemini gives me this whole thing,
Yeah.
in 10 seconds. So I've got reams of background content that I didn't have before. And that is
Mm.
allowing me to immediately go deeper into the topic and
Yeah.
just add perspective. And,
Yeah.
some of it is, rigid, or sounds like a computer talking. Um,
Yeah.
but I could read through that and rewrite it into what I want. And
Yeah.
that then oftentimes I'll feed back to the guests and I tell them it's from AI, but it's my
Yeah.
interpretation of it. And
Yeah.
I
You'd be
say,
mad
how,
not to use it. Yeah. It's
yeah.
great.
So you figure out, you make. I've made Gemini a friend, uh,
Yeah.
uh, being especially polite.
Yeah.
You, are you watching Gemini? Okay. So how do I deal with a person who is close and that person has a problem and they're hurting themselves by their behavior?
Mm.
And I am struggling and oftentimes failing, getting mad, getting upset.
Do you mean, for example, a friend or a family member?
Yeah, I don't want to get
Yeah.
personal here, but yes, to all of
Yeah.
the above.
Yeah.
Okay, and other people too, but the same kind of situation. I don't like the personality. I don't like what they're doing, and it gets me
So
upset.
you're seeing self-destructive behavior. I mean, it
Oh,
depends. Yeah.
yeah, that's a good way of saying that. Yeah, and so I have actually gone to I don't know what you call it, prayer
Yeah.
or meditation or you
Yeah.
know. I'm not an alcoholic yet, but the alcoholic's prayer, grant me serenity and calmness so I can know the difference between what I can't do and what I could do,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. And the
know that
wisdom to know the difference between what I control and what I don't control. Yeah.
bingo, and
Yeah.
that I've applied that to my situations,
It's,
especially when it's going to be a tough day. I already know that because of me or because I had a nightmare or something, and now I'm up and got to deal with a big problem. And so I'm coaching myself. I'm
yeah.
training myself. Is that what you get to in your men-to-men talk
If
shows?
if that's where we need to go, so I'll talk about the body and the mind. So for your personal self-care, the body and the mind. And then for others, talk about relationships. So I call this the heart and fulfillment, the work that you do, like the work that you're doing now, and I refer to that as the soul. So yeah, absolutely. And it's difficult because where there's love involved for that other person, where there's care involved for that other person, you desperately want to help them. But in all the situations, you have to remember there's only really ever one thing that you control, and it's the person sitting in the chair that you're in. And that's a really tough lesson to learn. And in all relationships, really, you can be responsible um, to someone, but not for them. So offer, you can suggest, you can be there for them. And often when someone's going through something difficult, that's about all you can do. Just be there for them and accept them for who they are. But in terms of offering, you can always offer. And even, relationship, the word relate is from the Roman, which just means to report in. So it's just reporting back in. So being there for someone doesn't mean being there all the time, but reporting back into them. Having said that, if there's someone who needs an intervention and it's time to take action, because not taking action means that that person is going to do some damage to themselves. Um, John Mulaney is a good example, the comedian. His friends all turned up in a room and said, "You're going to rehab." And of course, because he was a drug addict at the time, he'd got addicted to certain drugs. He was going to say no. He would have run away to his dealer before going and talking to his friends or listening to their advice. So I think there is a situation where that person's really not in control of themselves, where they need that help or they need to be referred to a professional. But most of the time in our relationships and when we're seeing people do, um, go down a slippery slope, and there's plenty of examples of that where people um, have have gone down the slope with drugs or with other problems. And the thing that you can do every time is be there for them, but you can't be them. So they have to make their own decisions, and that's a really important line to draw. That's why there's a very popular book called Let Them by Mel Robbins out, and I think it's number one in all the bookshelves. And essentially, it's about that. It's about where to draw the line on what you control and what you don't. And you control yourself. You don't control others. So what's going on in here and what you're doing with your body, you can always come back to that every day. And you turn to spirituality, you turn to God, you can pray for them. There are things that you can do, but ultimately, you don't control anyone else's life. And that's a real challenge and difficulty and frustration for us in our relationships. And yeah, we talk about that kind of thing a lot in our group. The Be Him community, we're more focused on professional relationships and work, but often the men in that group want to talk about their personal lives. They want to talk about their stories and share their stories. And especially once you got to our age, and I'm over 50 now, you go through a lot in life, and you find a lot of people dealing with the same things. Men who've recently lost their fathers, had other bereavements in the family, dealing with sickness or dealing with um, you know dependency or problems like that. But I find that coaching is quite powerful. I've done some therapy lately, and also with community, you've got that support. And sometimes, even where there's love in your family and in your friends, sometimes they want to help you in their way. And as with perhaps the example you're talking about, sometimes you have to just be there for people. So sometimes these other groups, having other communities, having other places, and other men with different experiences that you can talk to, um, it gives you a different perspective and different stories to talk about and attach to, rather than, unfortunately, as family, what we often do is tell each other what we should do, and then you have this friction happen, and it happens because it's so much harder to walk away from family than it is to walk away from a stranger or someone that we work with. Those are when it's just, yeah, it can be heartbreaking if you see someone going down that slippery slope, right?
So we got around 10 minutes left here at the show. Otherwise, I'd like it to go on longer, frankly. And yeah, I'd like to do it again with you. But and I want to invite you to consider joining another show that I do on some other topic.
Thanks,
Uh,
mate. Right.
and then you pick and choose. There's no fee involved. Uh,
Cool.
so the topic of this program coming up at the top of the hour uh, is with a very senior business executive, uh, and uh, I'm thankful to have that relationship. I was introduced by another customer. Um,
Hmm.
and a very different guy, different background. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Years ago, during the Vietnam War
Right.
time, he was Top Gun. If you could
Wow.
picture Tom Cruise and doing all that stuff.
In Vietnam.
Yeah,
Wow.
he and others, and that's not the only guy, were in that role.
Wow. Okay,
And
this guy's had some experience.
that's the real thing. And
Yeah.
then they, script writers, they're all very creative people. They then created this character and Cruise. is perfect stereotype for whatever the screenwriter wrote, and bingo,
Right. Yeah.
So billion billionaire status as a result of that combination coming through. Anyway, this guy was Air Force pilot, uh, had more than 300 missions, not a scratch, always landed the plane safely,
Yeah.
and became a trainer, executive trainer, and a coach and an author. Okay, so now he's trying to teach other business people, and this is a very, very strong man. Um, and that's not political, but it certainly has geopolitical consequences. Topic this morning, and he has been on a 52-week contract. Okay, so the topic changes, but it's always a little bit of the same thing.
Yeah.
So the topic is within the workforce today and multi-generations, the older people want stability and continuity and get things to work. Younger generation, Gen Z, in the same workplace, don't want any of that. And so there's a conflict. Okay. And so the topic is how do you manage that? So that's what's coming up at the top of the hour
Right.
here. And I have a PhD who's joining me on my panel to add to the perspective. And so this is what I do. I find people and try to bring, so I don't have to do all the work.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So, I just manage the time and be Mr. Talk Show host. Okay, so and this is all psychological and it's mostly man to man, but not 100% of the time. Uh, and so that it takes on some similarities to what I think you're describing here,
Yeah.
about what you're doing. So, and I'll send you examples of some of the other shows with this. And if you'd like
Okay.
to join that kind of a conversation, I think would be an interesting mix,
Oh, that would be
frankly.
fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I'll get back to you. So we have here at 7:38 here. So we get around 10 minutes or less because
Yeah.
I need to freshen up and get my head together. Um, I thank you for your time here. I wish you well. At first, I was a little skeptical about what is this all about, but I've really I've come to believe in the coaching aspect uh, and helpful, and how much of that is actually missing in today's HR, actually from the C-suite and HR. I think HR has always been people oriented, but the CEO or the CFO is saying, well, we can't spend money on all this stuff. Just get them to work or get rid of them, that kind of thing. And then the HR is in the middle. We have talent here, and then okay, let's try to work it out, kind of thing. And then the C-suite then hires a consultant to come in and to do the things without developing the talent internally to teach them how to solve the problems and therefore develop the talent. And so the younger talent is getting pissed off and they're quitting.
It's all leadership at the end of the day. So you can get those type of leaders. You can get such a different range of leaders. There are leaders out there preaching very similar things that top HR people would preach about how to really harness the talent that you have in your workforce. And I think we went a long way forward, and perhaps recently, in recent years, and with the introduction of AI, it's a very fast changing scene that we're looking at the moment. So, but I do think there's an up and coming feeling that from a lot of people that there's some kind of awakening going on at the moment in terms of how we viewed employment traditionally in the past versus how we're now seeing it. And it's changing at both levels, with the top level saying, okay, well, we've got AI now, so we don't need so many people, or we don't need all these people to do this, or can't we just get AI to do it? And at the same time, at the lower level, we've got younger people now saying, well, these companies they're not going to keep me anyway. They can just fire me when they want to. So why should I give all my energy and commitment? So it's an interesting time that we're in to be having that conversation. But that's why I think particularly men, predominantly still in more of the leadership positions at the top of the organizations, and if you can empower people or not, but it comes from the leadership. It doesn't really come from the HR people. HR people support those leaders, and the leaders take the decisions on how they want their organizations to run. And coaching is there to help them to make the best decisions they possibly can. And yeah, maybe sometimes that decision is to let a whole bunch of people go. So it's not all tea and sympathy is what we used to call working in HR. But I think coaching is there to help people to make some really tough decisions sometimes, as well as pursuing your dreams personally and so on. So it's a great thing, I think, to be able to share with you today and talk about that a little bit.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Okay. So, Ed Sutton, what is your website? Tell the audience how to get in touch with you.
Well, you can get hold of me by, I think probably the best way is to find me on LinkedIn. But what I'd like to do today is just to say, find the Be Him lab. It's called Be Him Lab, BEHIM Lab, LAB, on LinkedIn. And if you're working in HR or global mobility, come and join the community. It is for men specifically. Um, so everyone else, are you women? I'm Ed Sutton on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Great. Thank you. Please come back again.
Thanks, Ed. It's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you, sir. Thank you.
Take care. Bye now.
Okay. This is Ed. We welcome your feedback. Send me an email. Use editor global business news at gmail.com. Thank you.